So like, when we watch movies, we want good to triumph over evil. We want to see the heroes victorious. We want to cheer as the forces of light and hope trample over the forces of darkness. Don't we? Well, usually, but sometimes there's just something about the villain. A really charismatic, compelling antagonist doesn't just make a story more exciting, they can sometimes overshadow the hero entirely, leaving us wanting more bad guys, less do-gooding. In this video, we're gonna be looking at 10 movie villains who totally outshone the good guys. Okay, let's meet this one head on. When it comes to villains upstaging heroes, Heath Ledger's Joker is a strong contender for the most iconic example, certainly in the 21st century. Of course, Ledger's tragic death has added extra resonance to his performance in The Dark Knight, but it would be reductive to put it all down to that. Ultimately, it's an incredible performance, and while you may not remember the dim and distant past of 2007 and 2008, oh my god, I'm so old, people were not super psyched about Ledger's casting. "Not my Joker," fans cried. "Isn't that just the pretty boy from 10 Things I Hate About You?" Yeah, I remember you commenters on JoeBlow.com. I read those things. Anyway, and then, you know what? He shoved a pencil through the guy's eye. Honestly, when you think about that pencil, and the opening heist, and the hospital explosion, and the ransom videos, and do you want to know how I got these scars? It's kinda hard to remember that The Dark Knight was technically about Batman. And yes, I know my Joker impression is awful, get off my back. Sarah Connor is a fantastic heroine, a complex, charismatic survivalist full of raw anger, dominating the movie around her. That movie, of course, is Terminator 2, but in the first movie, she's just kind of a damsel in distress. She's really not the most memorable character in the Terminator. The clue is in the title. Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't unknown when he took the role of Cyberdyne Systems Model 101 in 1984. Conan the Barbarian had been a pretty big hit, but it was arguably his role as the T-800 that made him a world-conquering superstar. And with good reason. It's a terrifyingly icy blank performance, making full use of the guy's insane physique and unique speaking voice. Put it this way, we don't keep coming back to this movie for Sarah and Kyle. Although before you string me up for this one, she does kick some serious levels of ass. Man, oh man, I love Sarah Connor. Anyway, much like Sarah Connor, it wasn't until Chris Hemsworth's second appearance as Thor in The Avengers that the character really came into his own. You could even argue that it's not until Thor Ragnarok that he became the hilarious cosmic doofus we all know and love. And hey, sometimes it takes a while for a character to find their feet. His villainous brother Loki, however, stealing scenes from his very first movie. In fact, you could say that Tom Hiddleston's charming, troubled performance as the God of Mischief is the highlight of both Thor and Thor: The Dark World. Sure, Thor has his humiliation and his redemption and his romance, but he's mostly a big lunk with a hammer. Loki has a lot more going on beneath the surface. Apologies to the older Odin son, but we're gonna have to give this one to your little bro, my man. Okay, buckle up, kids, because we're about to ruin your childhood. Simba, you know, the Lion King from The Lion King, he kinda sucks. Well, maybe that's harsh, but he is kind of annoying. He's entitled and whiny, and he causes a lot of problems, and then he spends literally years running away from those problems. His Uncle Scar, on the other hand, a villain for the ages. A delightfully sadistic, sarcastic antagonist, his voice dripping with contempt for everyone around him. It's a legendary scenery-chewing performance from Jeremy Irons, boasting one of Disney's best villain songs ever. Sure, he killed Mufasa and traumatized multiple generations of children in the process, but come on, he's great! Can't wait to see the comments on this one. Of course, if you want to talk about performances that chew the scenery, we can go back even further than 1994, all the way back to 1939, and a little film called The Wizard of Oz. It's Dorothy's story, technically, but much as we love Judy Garland and her tear-jerking performance of Somewhere Over the Rainbow and just, you know, the general hell that it was making this movie, dare we say, the character just isn't that interesting. She accidentally ends up in Oz and she wants to go home. That's That's about it. But the Wicked Witch of the West? Now, there's a villain for the ages. Of course, being bright green helps her stand out. So does Margaret Hamilton's cackling over-the-top performance. Also, by the way, she got burned for real in this scene, so like, extra props to her. Girl, you deserve all the accolades you could ever possibly receive. Love ya. Ultimately, the witch just kinda has more going on as well, doesn't she? She wants revenge for the death of her sister. She wants the ruby slippers. She wants to take over Oz. She has flying monkeys. If she only had a heart. All right, let's put our screenwriting hats on. In Avengers Infinity War, who is driving the action from the beginning of the movie right up until the end? Who gets a complex character arc with a set of goals that they set out to accomplish at the start and achieve by the climax? Who learns some harsh truths about themselves but emerges victorious, though not unscathed? We'll give you a clue. He's big, he's purple, and to paraphrase our old buddy Star-Lord, his chin looks like a nutsack. Yes, it's Thanos, the Mad Titan. Sure, the Avengers and their various supporting heroes acquit themselves well over the course of the movie. They all do some cool stuff. They learn some lessons. But not only is Thanos perfectly realized by Josh Brolin's performance and some incredible special effects, but he utterly dominates the film. He's the star. But what did it cost?
Everything.
Now, let's start this next entry with a caveat. Just because a villain outshines or otherwise upstages the hero doesn't mean we're rooting for them. There's a reason they're villains, you know? And just because they're interesting and fun to watch, that doesn't mean we're putting posters of them on our walls. Especially in the modern day with this entry. Which brings us to John Doe, the frankly terrifying antagonist of David Fincher's nerve-shredding horror noir 7. We don't meet the perpetrator of those grisly murders until quite a way through the film, and while it's often the case that unmasking a killer diminishes their impact, this guy just keeps getting scarier and scarier right up until the movie's unforgettable climax. What's in the box? Pop culture immortality. That's what's in the box. Sure, Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are both excellent, but ultimately, they're a pair of noir cops. We'd seen them before, but we'd never seen anything like John Doe before. Even his handwriting is scary, for God's sake. The first two Lethal Weapon movies are rightfully held up as buddy cop classics. Unfortunately, diminishing returns started to set in around the time of the third installment, and by the fourth, everyone was looking pretty over the hill, which made the movie's new antagonist, a blur of deadly speed and violence played by Jet Li, stand out all the more. The role of Triad Enforcer Hwa Sing-koo was Jet Li's first Hollywood role, and it's a thrilling performance. He's intense, angry, and totally menacing, and his blistering martial arts moves totally blew us away. Is it realistic that an aging Mel Gibson and an even more aging Danny Glover could take him down? Probably not, but hey, they're the heroes, so you gotta roll with it. Best villain in the series? We're gonna say yes. Although I'll always have a soft spot for you, Gary Busey. You're the king. As stated previously with regards to John Doe, just because a bad guy is charismatic, it doesn't mean we're rooting for them. And you absolutely, under no circumstances, gotta hand it to Hans Landa. The guy is literally a Nazi after all. But in the hands of Christoph Waltz, he's a Nazi we don't mind spending a couple of hours with. Landa is one of the great movie villains of the last 20 years, charming and terrifying in equal measure. Yeah, Brad Pitt and Eli Roth and the rest of the Nazi hunters are a fun bunch, and they're obviously in the right, of course, and I mean, Shosanna is a phenomenal character, but there's just something about Landa, isn't there? I feel like I'm gonna be put on a list after saying this. This last entry is impressive for a very particular reason. Not only does Kiefer Sutherland absolutely dominate Phone Booth as its smooth-talking antagonist, not only does he upstage a great performance by Colin Farrell, who is on camera for pretty much the entirety of the movie, but he does it almost entirely over the phone. It's just that instantly recognizable voice and Farrell's terrified reactions. And it is absolutely electrifying. He's played plenty of villains in the past, but in the 21st century, Kiefer Sutherland is mostly known for the role of Jack Bauer, a man who definitely did some bad things, but was mostly a hero. We would love to see him play a villain again. Heck, we would settle for hearing him play a villain again. But which traditionally heroic actor would you like to see play a villain? We'd love to see Will Smith give it a try. He's played darker characters, but never a full-on villain. Or how about Tom Cruise? Come on, Tom. Give us another Collateral. Or even another Tropic Thunder.